This is Muriel Kramer, Chair of the Hopkinton Select Board. For actions taken, a brief recap of our meeting on July 20th, when we got together to discuss upcoming goals for the next year as a Select Board. Also, our regular meeting last night, August 1st, and the goals discussion will continue. So the goals discussion started on July 20th. The Select Board and Mr. Khumalo and Mrs. Lazarus all filled out a survey that we'll discuss at our meeting on the 23rd to address our goals from last year, the progress we made, and ways to make sure that we don't lose the momentum on those particular goals, as we also discuss our strategy and determine our primary goals for the coming year. That conversation will be Wednesday, August 23rd at 6 p.m. For an additional Select Board meeting that we've added to the calendar. At last night's meeting, we initially met in executive session as a board to discuss negotiations with the fire union, as well as to consider the purchase, lease, sale, or value of real estate in relation to properties in the vicinity of Town Hall and South Street and parcels owned by Umina off Chestnut Street. And then we came back into public session. We had a public forum. There was an individual who spoke in opposition to a recent special permit that was issued by the Board of Appeals for a property on Winter Street. There it was an individual who spoke in support of maintaining the position that town meeting vote supported in terms of resolving the Upper Charles Trail Committee and the TCMC committee going forward. And there was a young person who introduced an idea to work on redesigning the Hopkinton town flag. So that particular initiative, she's been invited to ask to get on a future agenda and bring it forward and explain her goals and her processes, and we will consider that when it comes before us. Our first item of business was a temporary alcohol license for the Hopkinton Center for the Arts, actually two of them, one for August 26th with a rain date of the 27th for their Play, Pint, and Pie Festival. And the second was for August 18th for an indoor concert being held at the Hopkinton Center for the Arts. We welcomed a new town employee, the new assistant town accountant, Poonam Rinzinghani. And we're very excited to have Poonam with us, and the team, the accounting team, is as excited as we are that they have this wonderful new asset in town. We also heard from the police chief and a candidate for the police department, Noah Buentello. Noah grew up in Hopkinton. He's a fifth-generation Hopkinton resident. It's kind of exciting to see him there with a very proud family and some fellow officers. He had got a unanimous vote from the Select Board, and pending his successful completion of the Police Academy in September, he will be joining us full-time. We had a joint meeting with the Housing Authority to appoint somebody for the term that is expiring at the 2024 annual town meeting. Only one of the two applicants was able to be with us. We did interview Beth Malloy and unanimously appoint her. Beth is a longtime public servant. She works now at the Respite Center, has worked with young people with intensive special needs in the schools before that, and has done an awful lot of volunteer work with seniors and also folks that utilize the Respite Center. And she'll be a great add to the Hopkins Housing Authority Board. We postponed discussion of annual appointments for two boards and committees, the Board of Appeals and the Cultural Council. We will take that up at our August 23rd meeting as well. We did appoint William Pickett Jr. as a special constable to a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2026. We received a really wonderful legislative update from Senate President Karen Spilka and State Rep James Arena DeRosa. The 2024 budget has been passed, and the big winners and the big investment areas are education and transportation. In particular, Hopkinton residents will be interested to note that the Metro West Regional Transit Authority has gotten a big investment, $190 million, doubling the state's investment. Free school lunches have been instituted statewide, which is wonderful to hear, not just for a parity issue, but also just ensuring that every child has the opportunity to be full and well-nourished and able to learn when they're in school. Hopkinton will be receiving $939,000 in unrestricted state aid, which is an increase of a little over 3% from last year. And the Hopkinton Public Schools will be receiving $9.8 million, which is a little over a 12% increase from last year. Hopkinton also received money to support their DEIB initiative, to support the Youth and Family Services for their ongoing and increasing efforts to expand access to mental health services, and our very own project Just Because to expand and help their services be more sustainable. James Arena DeRosa updated us on his support for the residents concerned about the LNG plant. We really appreciate the information and support he has been able to provide. He is also engaging with and prepared to engage more completely with Hopkinton as we explore options potentially for the state's support to help us solve our PFAS concerns. And also he advocated successfully, and Senator Spilka also supported $25,000 for our new sustainability, economic development, and equity officer. So that's really wonderful news from our partners at the State House. We adopted an order of taking for Box Mill Road, which was accepted as a public way at the May 1st, 2023 annual town meeting. We had a discussion among the board members for a next steps in the solution for the town trails related committees and their potential modifications. A lot of wonderful conversation has happened in the last 2 months, some of it emotional, but there's an awful lot of investment and understandably interest in how this issue will move forward. The TCMC has been able to meet, and they have discussed some changes to potential changes to their charter and their organization. A lot of the feedback is supporting the notion that the committees will be closer to 7 members, although this has not been firmly decided, and not have liaisons that vote. Liaisons are very important to our town boards and committees, but to maintain the functionality of the committees, it is being considered that all members that are voting members would be active members, not liaison, those serving in liaison roles. The select board did agree that it probably is going to need to be maintained. The select board did agree that despite the town meeting vote, it does make sense to have 2 separate committees, one for the TCMC and one for the Upper Charles Trail work. Both committees work on very different things. The Upper Charles Trail is really addressing planning a town, a connected path, multi-use path from Ashland through Hopkinton to Milford. And it's a unique pathway. And the TCMC is very often more directly related to sort of more rustic trails, running trails, things like that. So at any rate, we did agree that 2 committees was probably the right answer, and that a subcommittee situation didn't make as much sense to us, at least at this point. We did reinstate the Upper Charles Trail Committee that had been suspended since May, after following May town meeting, for the purposes, for the direct purposes that they are able to converse and meet with the TCMC, the select board, and the town manager to talk in terms of ways that their committee charge and their committee processes may be adjusted, and the membership as well. Many people from the survey and also on the select board, and feedback from individuals that have been in discussions with the TCMC support that possibly a 5 or 7 member committee is sort of the right size for a committee for productivity and manageability. We did also add to that vote a statement that the hotly contested segment along Hayden Road that was so adamantly opposed by so many is not a segment that we would consider until there was a future town meeting vote that suggested it must be considered. So for right now, the two trails committees are both active. They're both engaged in this conversation about a constructive go forward position for each of the committees, and ways, hopefully ways that they will design and pursue to work together. And those conversations will be held soon with the help and leadership of the town manager, and also select board member Irfan Nasrullah will be leading that effort for this project. The select board, as I mentioned earlier, postponed the discussion on their goals. That will happen at the August 23rd meeting. The consent agenda included our minutes from July 11th and July 20th, a parade permit for the 24th annual Michael's Run Walk that benefits the Respite Center in memory of Michael Lisnow. It was also included a gift of land for open space purposes in the Turkey Ridge subdivision, and a gift of land for open space purposes in the Chamberlain Wayland subdivision. We also accepted the resignation of Carrie Reed from the Conservation Commission. Carrie Reed, as you may know, has been recently hired to be in charge of the DPW. The town manager updated us on the Main Street Corridor project, as well as the PFAS treatment project and the MWRA Southborough Interconnection Project. He also introduced an idea to design an affordable housing committee. This committee would be to support and promote actual projects that the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee could react to and potentially support in order to create more affordable housing options in town. We also spoke about the update from the 2020 census, and our affordable housing stock is down from over 14% to just over the 10% threshold. So it will become even more important for those purposes that we find solutions to making more affordable housing more available here in Hopkinton. We also acted on the Lake Maspinock. We voted to authorize the town manager on behalf of the board to execute a construction access license with the town of Milford to access certain parcels of land off Pine Island Road in the town of Milford to support the Lake Maspinock Dam repairs. And lastly, the select board reported out on liaisons and invites, and there are many. We have 2 new Eagle Scouts in town for Troop 1. They will come before the board, we hope, at a meeting in September, but their celebration and their Eagle ceremony is coming up August 12th, I believe, and Shahadul Manan will go on behalf of the board to celebrate and honor those two young men. And I went this morning to the Advocacy Day at the Y, which is a really wonderful event where community leaders and invested community volunteers and stakeholders can go and quote unquote be a camper for the morning and learn a little bit more about the wonderful services that are available to youth at the Y year round. But today, of course, we were seeing the summer camp operation. And that's the report.